Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. I've been seeing tons of requests for Tears for Fears. And although I am a little bit familiar with the song, I've never done a deep dive analysis of it. And until a minute ago, I didn't realize that there are two lead singers in this band. I think this is going to be a very revealing analysis. But first, a quick word from the sponsor for today's video. It's approaching wintertime, and that means that your feet and the feet of all the people on your Christmas list are at risk of being cold. I hate cold feet. My feet get cold even in the summer, which is why I've become a sock snob. And as a sock snob, I want to recommend to you my favorite sock brand, Bombas. Bombas socks are great quality. You're not going to get holes in your heels if you wear them around the house like slippers, which I do. And by the way, they also have slippers. They carefully design the seams and the thickness of the material around your foot so that it supports in all of the right ways. I love that there's enough room in the toes. You don't have those annoying toe seams. And also, they're thick in areas that your foot wants to be more warm and thinner in certain areas so that your foot doesn't overheat. It's like a cozy fall sweater, but for your feet. My favorite socks are the chunky rag socks, which I am constantly wearing around the house. Although I have to say that the ankle tri-block, which is this one, is really fantastic to go with sneakers. And they also have fantastic undies. While great socks are enough for me, I love this brand because they don't just support feet, they also support people. One purchase equals one donation. Bombas has donated over 100 million socks, underwear, and t-shirts to people experiencing homelessness. So not only will your purchase make you feel better, it's also going to make another person who can't buy socks for themselves feel better. Feel good and do good with Bombas, knowing that your purchase is doing some real good. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just go to bombas.com/charismatic and use code charismatic20 at checkout. Now, let's feel good together while listening to some good music. Okay, I just have to say, I feel like we could recreate this entire intro in a kitchen. It's like salt shaker, spoons, pot. Maybe I'm just thinking about fun activities with my 2-year-old entirely too much. Back to the beginning. I like it. So I am letting this run a little longer than usual because I'm struggling. In the first shouts, I think it's both of them each time, but it could be a doubling of the voice each time. And I did not realize when I've heard this in passing before that there were two lead singers. So like, wait a second. When we got to the verse, I think we definitely have one person on it. And I'm going to get their names correct. I actually have pictures to associate with them. Thank goodness, because you guys have no idea how hard it is to get names with band members the first time you're doing a deep dive. I have messed it up so many times. Anyhow, we're going to go back to some vocal entrances here and talk about some additional things while I still try to figure out if this is doubled or both of them. I mean, So that's Roland. So there is a slight difference in timbre there. So we could be just doubling on Kurt Smith at this point. But it is a little difficult to tell. Do they just have really similar timbres and vocal builds? If so, that's really cool. I think that they decided, like, hey, why would one of us just be the lead singer? Let's make it both and let's trade it off. It makes it interesting. It makes it a little bit different, fun to explore. One of the things timbre-wise that's really noticeable is this feels like a very open sound. If you think about as a contrast, maybe grunge, or maybe not even just grunge, but something that's very forward and a little more nasal. Neil Young, right? This is the exact opposite of that. There's a lot of openness in the mouth, and it sounds like a lot of open space back behind the mouth as well. A lot of depth in the sound. I still think that most of these sounds can be made in the kitchen. We got additional ones in there. There's like almost a washboard going on. But there's additionally like a very persistent bassy synth we've got going. I'm really curious now. Has this been recreated in the kitchen? Because this would be a heck of fun cover to do in the kitchen. Like a little more mellow in the lowers there, but so similar in the highs. It's a lot of good rhythm in the vocal line. So a couple things about this, I guess, verse melody. I'm not sure. Okay. First deep dive. A couple things about this section. The melody of it is really angular. It actually reminds me of some of the more angular Mozart writing. It's clean and angular. And to be really precise with that as a vocalist is a little more difficult because it's not like your vocal folds just stop vibrating between notes. They can if there's certain consonants there. But a lot of times you're moving from one pitch to another without necessarily stopping the pitch. And that means that they very rapidly speed up or slow down. Just kind of fascinating to me. It's like saying like, hey, go, let's see, where are these pitches around? Maybe like 200 and then like say 250 or something. Like go wacka, wacka, wacka. Suddenly 50 times more, like up at 25%. That's a pretty big switch. And to do that really cleanly and hit the mark is a difficult thing to do. It's one of the reasons people train in Mozart, that and phrasing and breath control and so many other amazing things. Additionally, I have so much appreciation for the L consonants that he puts on here. I know that's so particular, but cell. A lot of times people will skip over their L consonants. L's can be a bit funky to continue sound energy for. The L is partially closing the mouth. It's really making a funny vowel. It's called an L-colored vowel as well. And yeah, just for the propagation of the sound, it's a bit difficult. Not only that, many people consider that L coloration to be like an ugly color, same as an R coloration. It's a strange tongue position overall. It's a difficult one in many, many languages, L's. See, and it was perfectly subdivided in the beat too. Sell your soul. So boom, sell your soul. He does it exactly halfway in the beat. Very precise. It's a really good L. I'm into this windpipe sound too. That took you for, wait, did I hear that right? That took you for a whack-a-mole? I briefly reviewed these lyrics, but did he just say whack-a-mole? He didn't. He must not have said whack-a-mole. That's just me hearing things because I like video games. What was that phrase? Sorry. I really ought to know, yeah. Those one-track minds. That took you for a working boy. So far, I'd gotten all the lyrics really well and really clear. And then that one, I was like, whack-a-mole? Whack-a-mole? I think sometimes people hear what they want to hear. And I am not excluded from this general rule. I can't unhear it now, though. Oh, again, really great. I mean, with the exception of the one that I thought was whack-a-mole, the enunciation has been fantastic. And I love the way that he cuts off on jump there. That's, it's just, he's very, very specific. This angular bit also makes it a little more difficult on the enunciation because continuing between pitches that are further apart, continuing a word is more difficult for our ears to understand. So next, this is now Kurt's part. I am really enjoying all of the different textures of sounds that are happening in the background. It actually reminds me a little bit of Nine Inch Nails in the way we get some really fun textures, but this has a lot more air and smoothness in a lot of it. Just really cool synth sounds. Yeah, let's hear Kurt sing this part. Also, a very nice L there. His voice somehow has a little more vulnerability in it. I think that might be a bit of vibrato. I picked up it just a tiny bit in there. But it also might just be that this is the next part of the song, so they want to add a little more vulnerability. I do appreciate that if I was just to think about how I would set these words, I would probably imagine the song would be faster paced. Shout, right? It doesn't feel like something you would do really slowly, but this is drawn out. There's a certain plodding, determined nature to it. And I think it makes me feel more considerate, more thoughtful about what things I would really want to shout about. It makes a person more introspective and more powerful all at once. His voice might sit slightly higher too. Right there, a tiny bit of vibrato. That overlap is cool. There were quite a few subtle layers added in that section. I think they might have once again added more vocal layers in there, and then the other instruments also joined in. That was an interesting shift, subtle but significant. Feels like it just widened as well in the mix. These drumming sounds still sound to me sometimes like they could be done like on trash can lids, like the old metal kinds, right? There used to be this amazing trio in Disneyland. Sorry, y'all, side note. Trio in Disneyland called the Trash Can Trio. It was like the Blue Man Group, but before. And this is when I was tiny, little. I just remember waiting on the corner of different places in Disneyland. We'd wait for hours sometimes because we loved the Trash Can Trio so much. It was janitors. They were pretending to sweep. And then they really looked like janitors in Disneyland. And then they would start banging on their trash cans. It was such a cool performance. I loved that. I wish they would bring the Trash Can Trio back, okay? That was one of my favorite things. And you might not be surprised that I also really enjoy any sort of drumming that is taking place on non-traditional drums. So I like these sounds that are being brought in right there. I had another point to make before I heard the trash can sounds. I remember what it was. Their mouth shapes, when they're side by side here, it's easy to see them. They are quite similar. Overall, I think you're looking for sounds that match, not necessarily mouths that match. And people's genetics will make that so that their mouths are going to be a little bit different depending on the shape. But you see a lot of similar movement, and the opening is pretty similar too. That's cool. Like, I don't see a lot of snarl in their sound. It's like, kind of thing that you might see Lizzie Hale do, for example. She's got some great snarl. But I see a lot of open mouths there, right? This would be very, very different if you saw Chris Cornell singing in his lower range, for example, much, much more closed. But slight differences to apply the genetics. It's even got like a tuned thing in there. Wow, it's so cool. I liked that part. Funky. With like a pan pipe synth. Meow. That was a really fun interlude. So many like fun sound candies, right? You're like, ooh, that one, ear candy the whole time. I love that. I think this would be a really, really fun song to hear somebody do an a cappella cover of, but maybe bring out the kitchen drawer, or just have an awesome beatboxer. I'm looking at a home free and voice play, y'all. I think one of y'all should do this as a cover. Maybe you already have, but this would be really, really fun to hear with all of those fun, like quirky sounds in this section. I could see somebody just going wild with that and having the best of times. I'm going to keep going for a bit, and then I think we should talk about these lyrics some, right? They're bold. They need to be talked about. Nice counter melody. Looks like a dust can, really. Oh, kiddo. It's so impassioned, right? I feel that the lyrics are just, they're bleeding. They feel so like they're drawn from the center of a person's soul. Like it's an urgent thing that has to come out. It couldn't be spoken. It must be sung. It's at that stage. Not just sung, but it feels like it's like continual shouting that's meant to sound pretty, which is singing. Anyhow, lyrics. I love the encouragement here of basically saying, stand up for the things you believe in. It's very It's very empowering, right? It's beautiful. I'm talking to you, and they're very direct about saying you, which is one of the things that's been tracked a lot in pop songs as being something appealing to listeners, by the way. So the fact that they're repeating over and over, like, yes, you, shout. It's saying stand up against oppression. And then there's also this part, I'd really love to break your heart. I'm not really sure how that fits in, to be totally honest. But if I could change your mind, it might be that they're begging to change a person's point of view. All this said, being a channel that is very dedicated to not taking part in politics is really hard on YouTube sometimes. So it's interesting. There are things that we encourage people to shout about. One of the biggest things, though, is respect for others, and you don't want the community to be divided. And there's this fine line as a YouTuber of how do I empower my community, but at the same time not alienate a huge part of the community. And because politics is probably the most divisive subject on the planet, and we really are coming together to talk about music, what I want to encourage people to shout about is what they find fascinating in music. What kind of music do you love? What is it that you love about this singer's voice? And keep it focused on that conversation, because that's what this community is about. We also stand for positivity, so I love to keep that focused on what are the things you love? What is it about them you love? And if you do dislike a certain thing about a song or an artist, when you say that, say it with respect. Say it with details. Don't just give a general like, oh, Elvis Presley sucks. Like, excuse me, tell me all of the reasons why you think that. And then I would like to present a counter opinion with all of the reasons why I think he's actually got an incredible voice. So I want y'all to shout out your opinions. I want you to talk about music in particular and tell me the things that you love, and wrap in some other things too. Anyhow, I think that this song is empowering, and it's exciting to hear this kind of empowerment given to their audience. It's so passionate. I love that there are kids in this. Encourage kids early to think for themselves. Is anybody else getting the feels from seeing kids in this video? I think it's so important that, especially when people are young, that you open their minds and help them to learn critical thinking and help them to just expand and see what the world is from so many different points of view. I love that this message is not just about yelling something out, but it feels like it's really encouraging a person to understand what it is they want to shout about. And I think that's a great thing to teach kids. His mouth is a Pez dispenser. Both of them. Yeah. Oh. It's like such an anthem. I really like the setting of this guitar solo. This idea of it being on the cliffs and the ocean underneath, when they took that and they essentially recreated a little bit of that vision, they gave a nice long verb to the guitar sound in the production. There's this piece of me that was like, oh, but what if there were ocean waves underneath? It wouldn't fit the overall feeling of the song. It doesn't have that soundtracky feel like a Metallica song would, but it had a really nice, expansive production chain put on it that made it feel like, yeah, that sound could be soaring over some cliffs into the ocean. I dig it. Right? Expansive. Hey, I see it. It's a hidden Mickey. Because I'm thinking about Disneyland, y'all. Do you see the Mickey shirt back there? Just pointing it out. If you don't know what hidden Mickeys are, by the way, it's like an adult scavenger hunt in Disneyland where you have to find little Mickey Mouse ears. Anyhow, I'm still a kid. Great sounds there. Great posture for singing. They have a song called Astronaut. Now I'm so curious about Astronaut because I love space, and this song has appealed to me in so many ways. Add space to it, and I'm like, what? I must hear more. So let me know in those comments beneath this YouTube video what additional songs from Tears for Fears I should listen to. And in the meantime, may I suggest some songs from this playlist over here for your analysis enjoyment. And may you fall more in love with music every day.